Hello, everyone. Hi, welcome. Welcome to today's session of Macmillan Education Time. I hope you can hear me well. I can see lots of people already. So, hello, good afternoon. I'm looking at the chat now. Where are you writing from? I'm curious. Do let me know while we wait for everybody to come. Good afternoon. I'm Romina. I work for Macmillan Education. You might already know me because there have been other webinars in this period, and I'm also usually around in schools. Oh, nice. I have Varese, Brescia. Very, very nice. So happy to see you here. I just would like to have a very, very quick introduction because I wanted to remind you that you are going to receive the certificate and you're going to see it after the session in the section attestati on on mondadorieducation.it. So if you go to the website mondadorieducation.it/attestati, you are going to have a look at your certificate right after our webinar. All right, nice. From Taranto, Teramo, Padova, nice. Lazio, very, very nice. Everyone from all regions of Italy. So I just would like to welcome Emma right now. Hi, Emma. Hello.
Hi, Romina. Hi, how are you?
Oh, good, good. You? All
I'm
fine?
okay. I'm okay.
Great. So, Emma, today we'll talk about storytelling. And so I will be here all the time. So if you need any kind of support, I will be there following the session. And obviously, I will be there at the end to wrap it up and help you with the questions. So we will have a moment at the end to collect all the questions. So do enjoy it. And Emma, over to you to introduce yourself and start. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you later.
See you later, Romina.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. And it's great to see so many of you here today. Thank you so much for coming. I'm looking out of my window and I can see glorious sunshine. So thank you to those of you who are here after a hard day at school and you've decided to come and listen to us today. So the session is called Storytelling. How many of you are storytellers? During the session, I will be asking you questions, so feel free to put your answers in the chat room. So my question was, have we got any storytellers in the room? And if you see me turn my head like that, it's because I'm also looking at the chat at the same time. So I can see there are some people here. It's raining. Poor Margarita's got some rain where she is. And I just wondered if any of you also tell stories. Well, I think I was talking to Romina about this, and I think actually we're all storytellers. All of us tell stories. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm going to tell you a little story about myself. So my name is Emma. Originally, I'm from London, England, but now I live in the top part of Spain in a city called San Sebastian. My heart belongs in the classroom. So that's where I'm my happiest. I love teaching. And my favorite age group are the 11 to 14-year-olds. But in the course of my job, while I was becoming a teacher and then a coordinator, then a director, I also started writing materials. So I also write materials for Macmillan. I also do teacher training. And I also work with Nile as a consultant trainer on their teacher training courses. So as you see, I've just told you a mini story. But let's have a look. And my first question for you today is this. Would you like to hear a story? So I'm just waiting to see if anybody's in the chat, if anyone would like to hear a story. Somebody's talking about Niall. I'm just wondering if, oh, good. There's somebody there who'd like to hear a story. So let me tell you a story, a longer story. Now, for this story, I'm going to ask you to use 5 of your senses. I want you to use your sight, your smell, your taste, your touch, and also your hearing. So the first part of the story, I'm just going to show you some photos, and I'm going to show you some photos from a recent trip. So again, what can you see? What can you smell? What can you taste? What can you touch? And what can you hear? Think about your senses. So here's the first photograph from my recent holiday. Here we go. Now, it's possible you won't be able to use all your senses. There's probably lots of things you can see. What about stuff that you can touch? Maybe you can hear something. Can you hear the aeroplane, the gentle buzzing of the bzzz? And can you see the beautiful sand and the desert underneath? I think you can almost touch it, right? So let's have a look at the next picture from my holiday. Here we go. And in this picture, we've now landed. What can you see? Look at that beautiful sky. Now use your smell. What can you smell? Taste is a little bit difficult, I think. Somebody's saying they can see the beautiful view. Can you touch? Can you feel that very warm air? Maybe you can feel the wind in your going around your head, or maybe the wind in the trees. What can you hear? Maybe you can hear that wind just very gently. It's a breeze blowing, moving the palm trees a little bit. Now, the last picture, I think you'll find very easy to use your 5 senses. Here we go. Oh, here's a lovely one from Elena. She can see a marvelous sky, touch the softness of the clouds. She can hear the roaring of the plane. She can smell the air. That's absolutely beautiful. So here's my last picture, and hopefully have a smell of that food. Isn't that wonderful? Can you smell how delicious it is? Look at the iced coffee behind. Can you smell the coffee? It's with fresh coffee grains. Isn't that beautiful? What can you taste? So have a drink of my iced coffee. Isn't that beautiful? Maybe you can touch some stuff. In this country, a lot of people eat with their hands. So maybe you want to eat some of my food with your hands. Help yourselves. And finally, what can you hear? You can probably hear the waiters in the background, maybe noises of the kitchen, and Vittoria can smell the delicious food. Quite right. So here's my story. Here is where it happened. It happened in this beautiful country, in the desert, beautiful sky, beautiful food, beautiful ice cream. Well, the ice cream was actually iced coffee. It was absolutely delicious. So I'm going to tell you the story, but as you're my students, I want you to react to my story. So I think the first thing I need to do is give you some language for the story. So here goes. Here's some language. I'm going to say the expression and you're going to listen and repeat. But when you repeat, listen to my intonation. So I'm going to say, "You're kidding." And you're going to say, "You're kidding." So listen to me and repeat. "You're kidding." Fantastic. So what happened? What did you do? How incredible. Cool. That's amazing. That's awesome. How terrible. What a nightmare. So with my own students, I would practice this language and I would ask them to listen to me and ask them to repeat. And what I want to make sure is with the positive expressions like cool, their voice goes up. And with the negative expressions like how terrible, their voice stays neutral. So again, listen to me. Cool. And you say? Brilliant. And then the negative, I'm going to say, how terrible. And you're going to say, brilliant. So with my students, I now say, okay, so I'm going to tell the story. Now, if I want to encourage them to use these expressions while I tell the story, I often do this. I have some paper clips and I give each student 3 or 4 paper clips and I say to them, listen to my story. When you use one of the expressions, you can take a paper clip and put it in the middle. And the object is to use 4 paper clips. So you have 4 on your desk. When you say an expression, take the paper clip and put it on your desk. Okay, so are you ready? Here are the expressions. So what happened? Cool. What a nightmare. And remember, you have to put the paper clips, you have to use your 4 paper clips. And we can see that Maria has already started, for sure. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the story. If you want to write any of the expressions in the chat box, go ahead. So here we go. Here's my story. So as you can see, we had the most amazing holiday. It was 8 days of paradise. The weather was fantastic. The sky was blue every day. The hotel was beautiful. The food was absolutely delicious. In fact, my favorite thing was the iced coffee and the fresh vegetables. It was incredible. Well, that is until the very last day. On the last day, we woke up early in the morning and the plane was leaving in the afternoon. So we decided that we were going to go for a walk in the morning. We didn't know where we were going to go, but we decided, let's go out of the hotel and take a little walk. Brilliant. So Marco's saying, so what happened? Right, I'll tell you what happened. So we left the hotel. We were walking along the main street when a man came up to us and he spoke to us. He said he was working in our hotel and that he'd served us our breakfast. And I said, oh, really? Thank you very much. The breakfast was delicious. And then he said to us, yes, I saw you two at breakfast. And he said, where are you from? And we said, well, we live in Spain. And he said, that's amazing. My mum lives in Madrid. Do you know Madrid? And we said, well, kind of. We live in the north of Spain. And he said, well, I'm going to the market to buy my mum some oil. Today is a very, very special day in the market because lots and lots of shepherds have come from the mountains and they're selling their rugs and their carpets and their clothes. And I said, wow. And I can see that Ellie's put, so what happened? So what happened next is we said, oh, that's interesting. And we were very near the market. And the man said, well, come with me. I'll show you. I'll show you where the shepherds are. So the man said, hang on, but first I want to buy the oil for my mum. So he took us to the inside the market and to a very little stall. We went inside this tiny, tiny shop and it was a chemist. It was a real chemist and the chemist was there at the counter. He was talking to some other people, but suddenly everybody left the shop. I'm waiting to see if anyone asks me a question. So what did we do next? Well, I was interested in exactly, Adele. What did we do? Well, I was interested. It was a real chemist and he had a lot of bottles on the shelves. And so the chemist said, sit down. And he gave us, I'm not kidding, Margarita, it's true. And the chemist gave us a little basket and he gave the man from the hotel a little basket and he started to describe the things he had in the shop. So he showed us the oil and then he showed us some cream for my face. He showed my husband some cream for his hair. He said, oh, this is very special cream for your hair. It will make your hair grow. Then he showed me some cream for some shampoo. And then finally, he showed me some oil. And the man from the hotel and us, suddenly we had some things in our basket. Marco said, awesome. Wait a minute, Marco. So we had this basket of stuff and the man had this basket of stuff and we took it to the counter and the chemist got out his calculator and he went busily on his calculator like this and he didn't speak any English and he said, that's 70 euros, please. 70. So Ilaria is asking, did you buy anything? Well, this is the point. The chemist said, that's 70 euros, please. And I thought, oh no, I didn't expect to spend 70 euros on face cream and hair cream and shampoo. What's happening? And suddenly a little bell rang in my head. Oh no. Exactly, Marco. How terrible. It was a complete scam. So, and it was too much. So I said to the chemist, I'm sorry, we're not buying anything today. We're leaving today. And the man from the hotel said, no, don't worry. We can give you a special price. Don't worry. You can have everything, these very special things for 40 euros, 40. And I'm thinking, oh no, I don't want them for €1. I don't want anything. So I said to my husband, I'm sorry, it's time to go. And I said to the chemist, I'm sorry. And I shook his hand and we ran out of the chemist. We ran out of the chemist, out of the market, into the street. But we were completely lost. It was now late and it was dark. And where was our hotel? We didn't know where we were. We couldn't speak the language. And there were people coming this way and that way. And exactly, Adele, what a nightmare. And then suddenly I thought, I know our hotel is near the train station. So if we ask somebody where the train station is, then we can get home. So I walked up to somebody, he didn't speak any English, and I said, excuse me, where's the train station? Train station. He smiled and he went, and he showed us, and he took us to the train station, and I said, thank you very much. And we found our hotel. It was late. We walked into the reception and our friend was there. And our friend said, but Emma, where were you? I was waiting for you. And I said, oh, you never guess what happened to us. It was a nightmare. And I explained the story and he said, oh, Emma, you didn't fall for that old trick, did you? It was the oldest trick in the book. You poor thing. Thank you. Well done. So luckily we got home and we were fine. We didn't spend any money, but what a story. So as you can see, I've done some expressions with my students, and all I've done is I've told a true story about my holiday. As Maria said, I've also used a lot of body language. I use body language on our holiday, and also I use lots of body language with my students. When we finished, I want to do some things with my story, and I think I could do 4 things. Number 1, Maybe we can look at some language. So this is how I began the story. We were walking along the main street when a man spoke to us. He said he was working in our hotel and he had served us breakfast. So what sort of language could I do here? What grammar do you think would be good? And I'm just waiting to see if anyone can think of some grammar we can do here. Have a look at my verbs. Absolutely. We can do some past continuous, past simple, and if you have a very good group, you could also do some past perfect. So we could look at the language. And sometimes what I do is we look at the language and then I ask the students to change the sentence. So I might say, we were walking along the beach. Can you think of something else? We were walking along the park. We were walking through the shopping center. We were walking up some stairs. When a man spoke to us, when a woman spoke to us, when a dog came to us, somebody said the river, we were walking along the river. And I get the students to play a little bit with the language and try and change some of the words and some of the verbs. And that's something I might play with the grammar. There was also some really nice vocabulary in there. There's some phrasal verbs. This is what my friend said. You didn't fall for that old story, did you? Fall for, we were tricked. Absolutely, Frederica. Sorry, Amelia. There's lots of prepositions. There's lots of phrasal verbs. And there's an expression at the end. That's the oldest trick in the book. So I could also try and put more phrasal verbs into the story so that the students get a context. So I've got some question tags going on there. So you can do what you like. And what the students like is they get a context. And then we can use that's the oldest trick in the book, and the students can write their own story. But we could also get them to think a little bit more. So we could also do this. And we could say, okay, tell the story again. This time you are the man who said he worked in the hotel. Retell the story from his point of view. So maybe he began, I was walking along the main street when I saw two tourists. I decided I was going to trick them. Or maybe he was a good man, so I decided to speak to them. Or you could tell the story from the point of view of the chemist, or you could tell the story from the point of view of my friend who was still in the hotel. So I was in the hotel and I was getting worried because I didn't know where my friends were. It was getting later and later. I didn't know whether to phone the police. So we could do lots of retelling. And finally, I think we can do some critical thinking. So I could ask the students, what would you have done differently? There we go. Well done. Yes, add some opinions. So we can ask the students, what were my mistakes? Tell me, what did I do wrong? And you know, this is a true story. This really happened. I'm one of these people who never trusts anybody, but I fell for it. I couldn't believe it. When I came back to the hotel and I spoke to my friend, I thought, Emma, you are so stupid. So we can ask our students, what were my mistakes? My other thought was, well, what if tomorrow he is in the hotel? What if the story was true? What would I do next? And finally, I thought, hang on. So what if this is the man's income? What if this is the only way the man makes money? What if he needed the money because his wife was ill in hospital? So there are all sorts of questions we can ask our students. So what you can see is this is a lovely way of using something that happens to you at the weekend or on holiday and we can use it for so much. So let's go on. So there are lots and lots of reasons for why we tell stories and stories in the classroom. Ed Sable was a filmmaker. He and his son made films. And this is what they said. They said, if you tell me a fact, I'll learn. But if you tell me a story, it will live in my heart forever. And I think what he's saying there is stories are very, very memorable. So our students will never forget, and I'll never forget that story. Andrew Wright also writes about stories, and he says we need stories for our minds, just like we need food for our bodies. Stories are important for our children. Stories help children understand their world and to share it with others. And I'm glad to see that somebody's saying, yes, there are so many versions of the same story we can tell. But as you can see, it's a memorable story. It's very generative. We can use it again and again. We can ask students about their own story. But what we're doing is we're making it memorable. So what I want you to do is just keep in your head why you use stories and why they're memorable. And I'm just going to show you some more ideas for stories. So where do I find stories? Well, as I said at the beginning, we're always telling stories. Somebody says to me, how was your weekend? I tell a story. Somebody says to me, what did you have for lunch? I tell a story. Somebody says to me, what are you reading? I tell a story. So I think we have lots of stories, but we also have stories in our books. So here's an example from Upskill. And in Upskill, there's a story in every unit. Here are the characters. So there are 4 characters in this story from Upskill. And how I would begin with my students with this story is I would say, have a look at the characters. What I'm going to do is put you in groups of 4. So get yourselves into groups of 4, and I'm going to give you a number. You're number 1, you're number 2, you're number 3, you're number 4. You're number 1, you're number 2, etc., etc. If you're number 1, put up your hand. If you're number 2, put up your hand, etc., etc. And in the groups, number 1, you are character number 1. Can you think of a name? Can you think of your age? Can you think about where you are from? And can you think about your hobbies? What do you like doing? Where do you go in your free time? What do you like eating? What do you like playing? What's your favorite sports? Etc., etc. And I give the students a little time to think about their character. And then in their groups, they tell each other about themselves. So number 1 would say, hi, my name is Jim. I'm from England, but my parents are from, etc., etc. Once my students have done that, I'll say, oh, very good. But now let's hear about the real characters. So have a listen. I'm going to tell you about one of the characters and you have to guess who is it. So here's the story about number 1 or number 2 or number 3 or number 4. Listen very carefully and write in the chat box. Who is it? Are you listening carefully? Hi, I'm Emily Turner. I'm 11 years old. I'm Scottish and I enjoy reading. So when you know who it is, write the number in the chat box. I'll say it one more time. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm 11 years old. I'm Scottish and I enjoy reading. Who do you think it is? Brilliant. Well done. It's number 2. And at this point, I would ask the students why. And we would continue, and the students would hear about the characters. And I'd say, is your story the same or different? And the students would compare their story and the stories of these people. And then I would let them read the introductions. And the introduction is in the book, and we have a little video so they could watch the video where the student introduces themselves. So now we know the characters, we now move on to the story. So here's the beginning of the story. Who can we see? On the left, we can see, who can we see? See if you can remember her name. She's 11 years old, she's Scottish, and she enjoys reading. Can you remember her name? Fantastic, fantastic. It's actually Emily, not Emma. So this is Emily, and Emily is talking to Harry. And Emily has just found something. Have a look at this. What's that? This isn't from the book. And Harry says, it's a treasure map. What do you think Emily says to Harry? Harry thinks it's a treasure map. Do you think Emily believes Harry? What do you think Emily says next? So do you think that Emily believes Harry when he says, well done, Sonia, you're kidding. Well done. Maybe it's a game. Well done. Well done. You're joking. Brilliant. Well done. That's brilliant. Okay, so what Emily says is, come on, Harry. Treasure maps are only in video games, and we aren't in a video game. Harry's obviously, Emily thinks she's much older than Harry. Typical Harry, always thinking he's got a great imagination. And Emily says, no way, you're kidding. Are you sure? Lovely. So we introduce the story, and I introduce the story to the students, and I say to them, so what do you think they do next? What happens in the story? And I get the students to predict the story. Now, hopefully by now, the students are a little bit curious and they want to know what's going to happen. And I don't know about you, but when I read a crime book, I always look at the last page. I want to know what happens at the end. So I say to the students, okay, let's look at the last picture. We won't do the story today, but let's just look. Does it have a happy ending? So what do you think? Does the story end happily? Do you think this is a happy ending to the story or a sad ending to the story? I'm having a look at Emily and Alaya. Oliver's there in the corner. And look at Harry, he's smiling. I think it's a happy ending. Okay. And we might ask the students, so what do you think happens? And they'll say things like, yeah, they find treasure and it's great. And this is the last sentence for the story. And they say, maybe this is the first of many adventures. And I might get the students to predict what happens in the story. Now, what we've done is we've done Unit 1 and Unit 8, which is a bit strange, but hopefully the students are now thinking, I want to know the story. I want to do the story. So hopefully when they come to class, they'll say, can we do the story today? And we'll say, maybe. So this is a story from the book, but we can also ask our students to tell stories. Now, many course books, including the book I'm using today, Upskill, have exercises. Here's an exercise in the book. So we tell the students to get into pairs, tell them to think about a famous person and answer these questions. So we give the exercise to our students and our students are quiet. They say nothing and they look at us like this. What do you think the problem is? Why don't our students begin telling the story? What do you think our students need? I think there are two things missing. What two things are missing? And sadly, the students aren't as amazing as you are. And I think they need some help. I think they need a couple of things. Let's see what you think. What do you think they need? Absolutely, Ellie. They probably need a model. And they probably need some ideas. And they probably need, well done, Milena, some examples and a topic. Everything's missing. We've just thrown it at them and said, go on, do the exercise. So here is what I would do with my class. And what I've done is just taken the pictures in the book. And what I begin with is this. And I would say to them, who's this? What's his superpower? Where's he from? Have you seen his films? And we would talk about Spider-Man and we would think about his superpower, where he was from, what he did. And then I'd say to them, so does anybody know who was the actor? Who was the actor who played Spider-Man in a lot of the films? And my students are much cleverer than I am, and they'll say, yes, it was Tom Holland. And I will say to them, did I ever tell you about the time? And do you want to know about the time I met Spider-Man? Well, it wasn't Spider-Man, it was Tom Holland. Would you like to know? Yes or no? And most of my students will say, yes. Okay, let me tell you about when I met Spider-Man, but it was Tom Holland. It wasn't really. Yes, that's right. That's right. I met Tom Holland. So here we go. And what I would do is give them this framework on the board. We've already looked at the expressions on the right. You're kidding. What happened? That's awesome. This is what the students are going to say. You're going to say the green, and I'm going to say the pinky orange. So I'm going to begin. Did I ever tell you about the time I met Tom Holland? And my students say, you're kidding. And I'm going to say, I'm not. It's unbelievable. I know. It all started when I was staying with my cousin in London. We were walking in the park one day when we saw some people playing sports. And the students say, so what happened? And I said, well, one of them was Tom Holland. I couldn't believe it. It turns out that they were in the park in London and they were practicing for their next film. And the students say, that's awesome. And I say, can you imagine? It was amazing. So as you've seen, I model the story. I tell the story, the difficult thing on the left. And at the moment, the students reply, you're kidding. What happened? That's awesome. And maybe we do it again. What we might do next time is we listen to it on the cassette, on the CD or on the audio. So I play the audio, the students listen, and they complete it with the words they hear. I apologize, it's quite small on the screen, but it's very similar to what we did. So we'd get the students to complete the dialogue, they would listen to it, we would practice some of the vocabulary, and then I would say, okay, it's back to you. We would probably try it again. So this time I would tell the students, you're now the pink and I'm the green. So the students would say to me, did I ever tell you about the time I met Tom Holland? And I would say, you're kidding. And we would practice the dialogue as a class. Maybe we would have students A and students B. And we would practice. And then we would look at the exercise again. And I would say to them, okay, over to you. Think about somebody you saw who was famous. Who was it? Where were you? What were you doing? And I'd like you, with your partner, to write a conversation. But, I'm sorry, you can use the model in the book, if you like, or you can use this skeleton. You decide. And I give them a choice. So students who need a lot of support can use the model in the book, and they just change the name of the person and the places. And my stronger, more confident students can just use this conversation. And at the end, hopefully the students are able to tell their own story, because we've given them a lot of model, a lot of guidelines, a lot of suggestions. And as Maria has said, I've told them exactly what I want them to do. So hopefully we've got some very good stories that they can then perform. So what I've done so far is I've told a story, and we've used it for grammar and for vocabulary and also critical thinking. I've asked the students to tell a story using the book. Finally, let's have some fun with some stories. So I've got some different things we can use here. Number one, I wonder if any of you have seen these. These are story cubes. And I wonder, I'm going to just, I hope you can see my box. I'm going to open my box here, and inside my box are little cubes. And on the cubes are little pictures. And in my box, I've got 9 different cubes. So you can do it in the classroom. You can get yourself a set of little squares, and the students can shape the cubes and tell their story. But look what I found. This is the online version. If you want to take a photo, go ahead. What you have here is the link to Dave Burse's website, and he's got story dice. And you put this on the screen, you roll the dice, and it comes up with a story. Have a look at the hamburger. Can anybody guess where Dave is from? What country do you think he's from? This is the only negative thing about the website. Maria's asking for the link in the chat, of course, but also I'm going to ask Mondadori if they'll share my presentation with you. And then you can have my presentation and you can take it straight off. I've got references to some other things as well. Absolutely, Barbara and Vittoria. He's from the USA. This is the only downside. So the story is quite American. So, but it's a great website. You have it on your screen, you roll the dice, and you can do some storytelling. So this is with story dice. Let's have a look at another idea. So this is a picture that I took from one of the course books. Again, it's from Upskill. And what you can do with the pictures is you can do what I call see, think, and wonder. And what I ask the students to do is similar to what we did at the very beginning. Using their senses, what can you see? What can you hear? What can you smell? What can you touch? What can you taste? So it's just a description. What do you think? What do you think is happening? What happened before and what's going to happen? And finally, wonder. I wonder if the police come. I wonder if his friends help him. I wonder if somebody stops him, etc., etc. Once we've got some ideas, maybe I'll write the ideas on the board. I then ask the students to create the story. There are other alternatives. I, for example, love going to art exhibitions. So when I go to the art exhibitions, I often take photos of paintings and I show the photos to my students. So here's a painting from an exhibition I saw last week. The painting is actually of a very famous story. I don't know if you know it, from Aesop's fable. It's the story of the men who take a donkey to market. And at the end of the story, they have to carry the donkey. But what we can do is use these pictures with our students, and we can do what's called 5-5-5. So what I would do is I would ask the students to write down 5 nouns. So look at the picture and 5 things you can see. So if anyone can think of some nouns, I'm going to start. Noun number 1 is donkey. So if anyone can think of some more nouns to describe the picture, donkey, men, path, and thank you very much, Mondadori, for sharing the link to the story dice, the online story dice. Brilliant. We've got Barbara, who's found a house. So we've got donkey, man, house, church. We need one more. Hill. Brilliant. Thanks, Barbara. Thank you. Small church. Well done, Marta. Church, Ellie's found. Brilliant. So that would be our 5 things. The next 5 is 5 verbs. So, for example, I can see carry, I can see shouting, and I would ask the students to come up with 5 verbs. And again, they would write them down. Finally, there's another 5. There's a red 5. And I would ask the students to write down 5 adjectives. And the 5 adjectives, we've got the men who are strong. We've got the people who are funny. We've got the sky, which is grey. We've got the donkey, who is happy, etc., etc. So each, and we've got tired, absolutely. The men are getting very tired. Well done. So we've got each little group of students thinking of 5 nouns, 5 verbs, and 5 adjectives. And what I'd ask them to do next is to write a mini saga. And from Wikipedia, a mini saga is a very short story, which is based on a longer story, and it contains exactly 50 words. So I'd ask the students to use their 15 words, their 5 nouns, their 5 verbs, and their 5 adjectives, and they need to write a mini story with 50 words. And so away they go. I give them 15 minutes and they write their little story. And then we would compare the story and we would tell each other what we liked best about each story. I'm not in favor of voting. I always say to my students, no, we're just going to decide which stories. We're going to say something nice about everybody's story. So that would be my mini saga. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of this, and we've seen several ideas for telling stories. Here's my last idea, and my last idea for fun with stories. And for this last idea, what you need is some paper. here's my Macmillan paper, but what I'm going to ask you to do is turn your paper that way, okay? And you need a pen as well. So you've got your paper and your pen. At the very top of your piece of paper, can you write down the name of a famous female? So think of a famous female. It could be Beyonce. It could be, what other famous people do I know? It could be Catherine Middleton, or it could be someone Italian. It could be, I love the author Elena Ferrante. Who else? So you could put all sorts of people, but one famous person, but it's a woman. When you've done that, I want you to fold it to the front like that. Okay, so you've put your famous female. Underneath, you're going to put, write met. And underneath met, you're going to put a famous male. But it could be a famous male or it could be a famous female if you want to be more exclusive. So whatever. So you're going to put another famous person underneath. When you've done that, you're going to fold your paper like that. And in the classroom, what I would say to the students is give your paper to another student. So that paper goes to another student, and I then take the paper, and this now is mine. Okay, so we pass it to the right, and then we take it from the left. So the next line, we write at, on, in, and you write the name of a place. So at the park, in the cinema, on the beach, whatever. And you fold the paper again. And the paper again is going to go to the right. And I take a piece of paper from my partner on the left. And here comes the paper. Okay. After that, you're going to write at, on, in, and you're going to write when. And again, I fold it. I'm going to pass it. Okay, and it's coming back. We're now going to write she asked, and we fold it and we pass it. He replied, we fold it and we passed it. He asked, we fold it and he pass it, and she replied. So we've got some different lines. And I see that somebody remembers the game. Absolutely. It's called Consequences. And what's happening is the students are writing a story together, but it's past the piece that they've each got a piece of paper each, and it's passing. The last one, and the consequence was. So at the end, you've got this all folded up. You pass it to the next student, and the students open their piece of paper and they read the story. And what they should have is quite a funny story because they've all been writing different bits. Once they've read the story, in their groups, they choose the best story and they now write it. So they write the complete story together and then they read it to the class. So that's just another fun way of doing stories. And my students love the idea that they're building the story together. And it's very physical because we're passing the paper from one student to the next. Okay, so at the very beginning, I said to you, can you be thinking about why we tell stories? And what I'm going to ask you to do now is think about it. So you've seen my story ideas. We began with the holiday story. We did the story in the book about the treasure map. We did the story about meeting a famous person. We had the story cubes. We did the story of the graffiti. We looked at the famous painting. We did the story, the consequence story. Why do we tell stories? Can you think about why we're telling stories? And what I'd like you to do is give me your ideas. But I don't want you to put your ideas in the chat box. What I want you to do is put your ideas on a Mentimeter. So I'm going to show you a QR code. You'll need your mobile phone and you'll need to go to this QR code. If you don't have a mobile phone, you can join at menti.com and you can use this code. When you get there, you can put in a reason for telling stories. Then you click submit, but don't click next step. So let me say that again. You use the QR code on your mobile phone, or if you're on your computer, you can go to a new tab and go to mentimeter.com and use the code. And you should come to Mentimeter. There, you can put in your reason for why you tell students stories. So please put in your reasons. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it looks like at my end. So you'll be able to see people putting in their ideas. So once again, when you get there, write your reasons for telling stories on Mentimeter and click submit. Let's see if we've got some ideas already. Absolutely. So can you see now? We've got dynamic lessons, absolutely. To encourage fantasy, brilliant. To engage the students, because we are humans and it's the best way to remind ourselves we need them to learn more about living. Brilliant. Fun. Stories are more memorable. They enhance attention. They're engaging. It's amazing. Okay, there's some more down here. Gain and keep attention and motivation. Share experiences. Encourage creativity. Interesting and funny lessons. Absolutely. Spread vocabulary. Yeah, practice grammar. Yes, keep students engaged. This is a great point. Even if their language is not always accurate, I agree. Sometimes we just want them to tell stories. We don't mind if the language is good or bad. This is lovely. So what I'm going to do now is allow you to vote on your favorite reasons. So I'm going to press enter. And what you can do now is on your phone, you can actually vote for your favorite reasons. So what are your favorite reasons there? You can you just click on it and let me show you the results. Nobody's voted yes. Let's see if anyone manages to vote. So you should be able to scroll back, have a look and do some voting. So it doesn't look, have we got any? Oh, we got some voting. We got people saying they like. Yeah. So don't forget to press enter or submit so that we can see how the voting's gone. Okay. So I'm going to pull this to an end. We've come to the end of the session. As I said, here are my links. There's a link to the book I used. There's a link to the online story dice. And also there's a link to the thinking routines. These are things like see, think, wonder, 555, different ways you can activate your students' thinking. So I'm going to stop sharing. I can see that it's nearly 5 o'clock. I'm sorry, Romina, I've run over a little bit.
That's fine. Really, really interesting. Thank you, Emma. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that everyone enjoyed it because I was having a look at the comments, and even the last activity, really, really nice using Mentimeter. I have to say that the 555 activity is really engaging, in my opinion, because it was, I mean, I had heard about it, but I had never seen it like concrete as a concrete activity. So I was really interested in that part. But I have a last question, like 1 second. If I don't know if anyone, I can see lots of thank you and people that are saying this. But if you have any questions, we might have like a couple of minutes, everyone. So if you have questions, please put them in the comments. But I have a very funny question to be honest. Because have you really met Tom Holland? Was it true, or was it just an example?
But the first story is true. The first story was a true story.
True.
But
Okay.
I've never met Tom Holland, no. But I'd like to.
That would have been great. I was like, wow, if Emma met Tom Holland.
Yes, it would have been wonderful. Romina, people are asking for the slides. I'm happy for you to share them. You've got them. So if you want to share them somehow, I'm very happy.
Fantastic. Thank you, Emma. Okay, so you are going to receive the slides. I was about to say that after talking to Emma, we would have confirmed, but we can confirm it already. So you are going to receive the slides always on mondadorieducation.it in your in your section and via email. So we are going to Mondadori is going to give you details. All right, thank you very much, everyone. We're sorry that we have to go now, but you are going to receive the slides. Yes, absolutely. We're going to share the material. And thank you once again, Emma, for this fantastic session. Very motivating and engaging as usual. So we are really, really happy. And if you want to have more information, everyone, you can always talk to us. So Macmillan Education and Mondadori Education, and we'll be super happy to help you. So thank you, everyone, and see you next time. Thank you, Emma. Bye, everyone.
Bye.